Alrighty, in today's lesson, we're going to do lesson number 52, and it's mentally dividing decimal numbers by 10 and 100. So basically, you're just going to be moving the decimal point depending to the right or left, and that will be dependent upon if you're multiplying or dividing. Since today we're dividing, we'll be moving the decimal point to the left. Alright, so here's the rule. If you're dividing, you move the decimal point to the left. If you're multiplying, you move it to the right. Now, how far to the right or the left do you move it? That depends on what you're dividing by. So if you divide by 10, that means you're going to move the decimal point, which in this case, the decimal point for 50 is right there, directly to the right of the ones place. Alright, so if you're dividing by 10, you're moving, your division means you're moving the decimal point to the left. How many places left depends on how many zeros. So if you're alrighty, we have 37 and 5/10 divided by 10. Now division means move the decimal point to the left. So if I'm going to do this one, I'm going to write 37.5. But since we're dividing, we're moving this point, the decimal point, to the left. So and how many places depends on how many zeros. There's only one zero there. So we're going to move the decimal point one place to the left. So the answer is, the decimal point is now going to be in between the 3 and the 7. It's 3 and 75 hundredths is your answer. Alright, last problem. 3 and 75 hundredths divided by 100. Well, since we're dividing, the decimal point is going to go to the left. So you're going to write this problem, 3 and 75 hundredths. And how many places will the decimal point go to the left? Well, it depends on how many zeros. Well, the 100 has 2 zeros, so we're going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left, which means you're going to need a placeholder 0. Okay, so the decimal point is now going to go in front of the 0. So this is 375 ten-thousandths. Alright, so that was lesson number 52. It's a pretty easy lesson. Let's do a little bit of homework. So what is a product of 1/2 and 2/3? This is number 1 on your homework. Well, the product is the answer to the multiplication problem. And so we got 1/2 and 2/3. You guys know how to multiply. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. And this is going to reduce to 1/3. Basically, what's half of 2/3? 1/3. Alrighty, so number 5. At this high school, there are 320 students and 16 teachers. What is the student-to-teacher ratio? So if you have student to teacher, since the word student comes first, that means 320 comes first and 16 comes second. Since there are 16 teachers and 320 students. If we were to write this as a fraction, 320 would go on top and 16 would go on bottom. Alright, the next step would be to reduce. So I think the greatest common factor would be 16. If you divide top and bottom by 16, you know the denominator is going to be 1. And then you can take 320 divided by 16. 16 will go into 32 2 times. 2 times 16 is 32. Subtract 0, 0. 16 will go into 0, 0 times. No remainder. So this would be 20 students to every 16 teachers. Sorry, I just read that wrong. It's 20 students to every 1 teacher. So that would be 20 students in a class. At BASIS, we have a larger ratio of students to teachers in that because usually we have around 30 to 32 kids in each class. And so it's 30 to 1 about at BASIS. So anyway, moving. Alrighty, number 11. 5 and 1/3 minus m equals 1 and 2/3. Alright, there are 2 sides to every problem. What side do you start on? The side with a variable. So I'm going to get rid of 5 and 1/3 from this side. If I get rid of it on this side, then I have to get rid of it on this side. 5 and 1/3. Okay. Now, in a situation like this, you're subtracting. You're going to have a negative answer. So I'm going to do this to the side. I'm going to take 5 and 1/3, subtract 1 and 2/3 on the side here. Alright, I can't take 2/3 away from 1, so I need to borrow. So this is going to be, I'm adding 3/3 onto this. Okay, if I were to add 3/3 onto that. 3/3 plus 1/3 is going to be 4/3. Erase that, add it in. 4/3 minus 2/3 is going to be 2/3. 4 minus 1 is 3. So, what that is saying, since I'm subtracting 5 and 1/3 from 1 and 2/3, that means you're going to have a negative 3 and 2/3 equal to, since this cancels out, all we have left is a negative m. Alright, in algebra, if you multiply both sides by a -1, that'll make this positive and this positive. So your answer is going to be m equals 3 and 2/3. Alright, number 13. $10. You spend W amount of dollars and you have 10 cents left over. How much money did you spend? That's what this equation is basically saying. Alright, so what side do you start on? The side of the variable. How do you get rid of $10? You subtract $10. If you subtract $10 on one side, you got to subtract $10 on the other side. Make sure you line up your decimal. Add some placeholder zeros if you need to. Now that cancels out. All you have left over there is negative W. Okay, and whenever you have a larger number on bottom of a subtraction problem, then you're going to have to find the negative number. So $10 minus 10 cents. Okay, these are 0, then you got to borrow. This is going to become a 0, that's going to be a 9, that's going to be a 10. 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 minus nothing is 9. So you're going to have a negative $9.90. Okay, multiply both sides by -1. That's going to be positive. So W is going to equal $9.90. Don't forget your label. So that's how much money you spent, because you only have 10 cents left over.